Hey, Bill Scythe here with Neptune Clean. Got a little work to do in the shop. It's still winter here, and I got a ton of stuff I'm doing to the rig here behind me. A bunch of upgrades that we're doing. And today I'm working on getting the bypass valve for the downstream for the 8 gallon per minute setup. So we just put in this Titan reel, and above it is going to be a downstream bypass setup. So that hose right there is this hose right here is putting, that's bringing the soap to the downstream injector, and then I got a bypass rig set up, and it's going to be hooked up to this pressure washer reel here, and then the soft wash will go on top of it once I get the Titan stat kit for it. So that's what I'm waiting on now. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get to putting this thing together, and I'm going to videotape it so you guys can check it out. So anyway, it's pretty simple setup. I'm sure you've seen them on the internet before, but it might be fun to watch me put it together and then mount it on the truck. So you get an idea of how I'm doing it. It might give you some good ideas for your rig. All right, let's go ahead and get to it, man. All right, as you can see, I've got my downstream bypass setup on the table here. I've got to basically put it all together with lock seal. Everything's stainless steel. Yeah, lock seal, that stuff is what you need when you're putting any kind of fitting on your high pressure side. What I call your high pressure side is your pressure washer. So I'm going to apply it to the threads. Just 1 or 2 little drops is really all you need, and then go ahead and make your connection and tighten it up. Of course, this stuff doesn't really, you don't have to Gorilla Grip it, just a little past snug, and I usually don't have any leaks with it. Now you notice I'm putting a brass coupler on that T-fitting, and that's because they sent me a male, I wanted a female, 1 male and 1 female T, and they sent me 2 males. So, rather than send it all the way back, because I had to order it, it's like, you know what, I'm just going to get a coupling so that I can connect my hose and go from there. It's going to be fine. I would have rather had a female fitting, but it is what it is. You also notice that I've got stainless steel couplers, so the quick disconnect, and that's so I can disconnect the downstream injector from the system if I ever need to replace it or whatever, and I can connect the system back up and still have it work. For some reason, if it gets clogged when I'm out in working, I can just pull that thing out, connect the other 2 ends together, and keep working. So the hoses have, these jumper hoses have a swivel on one side and not on the other. So that's why you'll notice I'm taking everything apart and kind of reassembling it piece by piece, because if you don't assemble it in a certain order, then you'll get to a point to where you're like, crap, I can't put this thing together because the hose doesn't swivel or whatever. So anyway, I'm just kind of going from left to right, making the connections as I go. And as you can see here, that swivel end is going to go in to the on-off valve, ball valve right there. I think that's a Massimo ball valve right in there. So there you go. I'm just kind of setting that aside while I disconnect the downstream injector. Again, it's all stainless steel. It should last me the season next year. This year, actually, it's 2022 already. I did this on the 2nd of January. You notice that also had to, because I'm using 1/2 inch rather than 3/8, because I have a 1/2 inch hose coming from my pressure washer. I wanted to make sure I was getting that max flow all the way through, and so that's why you'll see that I've got the 1/2 inch couplings on there, and I had to basically, you can't find the downstream injector that's 1/2 inch, so you gotta reduce it down, and so I had that reducer fitting on there so I can connect the coupler to the downstream injector. Same thing on the other side. And again, just applying the lock seal to each piece. I'll go ahead and thread this on here, and then I'll put some more lock seal on the outside of that reducer. And then put that male part of the quick disconnect on there. And my downstream injector part is complete pretty much. Just tighten it up, just snug it. You don't have to gorilla grip it too much, or else you'll be in pain getting it apart if you ever got to take it apart. So it's a little snug up there. All right, now just make sure that the downstream injector is flowing the right way. That's the big piece. So that's the way I want it to flow. So there's a
flow's going this way.
Yeah, exactly.
This is going here.
So that's the hose that's going to go to the hose reel. And again, I'm just kind of disconnecting this, putting it together in a way that makes sense. The quick disconnects also help the assembly of this thing. If it was all, fittings and no quick disconnects, it might be a little more difficult to put this thing together. So you kind of got to spend the money on the quick disconnects. And if you're going to do it right. Use stainless steel. You won't regret it. It's going to cost you more, but it's going to last a lot longer too. This will last me the whole season. Actually, these quick disconnects will probably last me longer than that. But brass will definitely give you trouble down the road. Let's get this Mossimo ball valve connected. Lock seal. Now again, that's the non-swivel part into the hose, so it's easier just to make that connection, and that way when I go to put that hose on the hose reel, the swivel end is at the reel, and that's what you'd be hurting if you had the swivel end right there at the downstream injector. Alright, there you go. Yep, it's looking pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and before I connect that that last piece up, might as well put the ball valve on. Make sure that you turn that the right way, because the way I'm going to mount this on my truck, this ball valve's got to be facing a certain way. So that the way I have it is up. So I just got to turn it and then put a wrench on it and make sure that it ends up all the way in the up position. What for me is going to be the up position. And it's pretty easy to manipulate right where you want it. And again, you don't have to gorilla grip these things on there. Bam, there you go. Now the other end of that jumper is swivel, so all I got to do is put some lock seal on it and then hook it up. And the reason why you even have one of these jumpers is to, the orifice that the water flows through in order for the downstream injector to work. So the orifice in the downstream injectors is really small. It restricts the flow for that 8 gallon per minute machine pretty dramatically. So if you're doing concrete, if you're hooking up your surface cleaner, then what you want to bypass that downstream injector. So that shuts off the water to the bypass and forces it through the downstream injector. Now the water is going to, because of the orifice restricting the flow, water taking the path of least resistance, going to flow through that bypass hose.
All right, now that thing is built, what I got to do is coming over here to my 8 gallon per minute machine, and this is the hose that feeds the downstream injector bypass setup. So I'm going to reroute this, and I got to come back behind my tank here, and just on the other side of this tank is where the downstream injector bypass system is going to get set up at. So, not that big a deal here. I just got to reroute this hose, and what's great about this setup here is I've got half-inch hose coming off of the 8 gallon per minute machine, and then my first 25 feet of hose on my hose reel is also a half-inch. And what that does is that gives me a nice, easy, startup. When I pull the trigger to this 8 gallon per minute machine, it doesn't kick you on your ass. It's got a really slow startup, and it's really nice. So I recommend that setup to everyone, and I'll kind of show you as I go. Now this one, I've got it just quick disconnect, so that this end, it doesn't have the swivel on it, so it makes it easy to disconnect it from the machine and reconnect it if I have to. The swivel's on the other end that's going to get tied into the downstream injector system. So anyway, let's go ahead, and I'm going to get some camera set up, and we'll film me putting that together.
All right, what I'm doing now is taking off this hose from the 8 gallon per minute machine so that I can connect it to the downstream injector bypass system, and then I can connect it up to the new Titan 22-inch electric hose reel. I'm very excited about that.
Turns out this thing is not a swivel on either end. Usually there's a swivel on one end, so I'm probably going to have to install that downstream injector kit on here before I move it to the other one. So here we go. Easy enough.
Now that I've got the jumper hose from the machine all the way connected to the downstream injector system, I'm just feeding it behind my buffer tank there. As you can see, I'm just trying to get that hose to go around, and now just trying to figure out where I'm going to place it, because you can see where the old one was for the 4 gallon per minute machine. It's not going to work. I'm going to have 2 hose reels right there, so this one's going to have to be up just a little bit higher. And what I'm doing is I'm putting it on here with self-tapping screws. So it's basically just a little hose holder for some conduit. Yeah, it's like a conduit clamp, I guess. And the metal on this part of my truck isn't that thick, so the self-tapping machine screws go right through it. Man, I tell you what, I am on the struggle bus trying to get this thing mounted. It's kind of heavy, a little unruly, and I'm working by myself, so that's always fun. But hey, we managed to get it on there. No big deal. Hey, safety first, buddy. All right, now it's time to take all the high pressure hose off the old reel and get it put on the new Titan reel.
This is where I go from a regular 3/8 to this 1/2 inch hose. Remember I said I got 25 feet on the initial 25 feet on this reel is that size hose, and it really provides for a soft start on an 8 gallon per minute machine. It's the only way to set it up.
I can tell you one thing, I'm pretty excited about getting rid of these old reels. I mean, they served me well, the same type of reels I had when I first started my business, but I'm upgrading to the Titan reels. I really look forward to the efficiency that they're going to provide the crew, being able to, get done with the job when they're tired and they just push a button and that motor kicks in and reels the hose up for them. All right, here's a 45-degree fitting I've got, and basically what that does is it's going to kind of help the hose not to kink right there where it first goes on. And so I couldn't find one in stainless, so brass will do just fine. It'll stand up to the little bit of SH that's coming through there. And the great thing about if I'm ever downstreaming with that rig anyway, it's always going to get flushed out because I'm always going to turn the downstream injector off and run straight water through it. So I'm not worried about the brass fitting. I think it'll be just fine. All right, now it's time to get the hose on there. Again, this is what 1/2 inch pressure washer hose looks like. And this doesn't have a swivel on it either. So, I actually had it coiled all up when I took it off. And so I'm going to essentially, I kept that coil. So it's actually making it easier to thread this in here because as I turn it, essentially it's uncoiling the hose. And so I'll be able to tighten it up. Now, of course, I am in my shop. I couldn't stretch all that 200 foot of hose out and get all the kinks out of it before I started to, roll it back up on the new reel. So I got to take some kinks out of it as I go.
I tell you what, I cannot wait to use that out in the field.